Hello. Okay, I think I have got this. I did try to go live from the actual event, but it wasn't letting me do it. So I had to go through Zoom and I had to stream live. So whoever is out there, can you give me a shout out to let me know that you can hear me? That I am coming through. You can see my face, you can see my screen. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Also, if you're just jumping on, we're just going to give people a couple of minutes to jump on before I start the training. So if you are jumping on, I'd love to know who I'm spending time with. Where are you watching from today? What's your name? I'm here in Seattle, Washington, and it's an absolutely beautiful day today. The sun is shining and it totally lifts my mood. So I am just making sure that I'm going live because I can't see if you guys can hear me. So I'm just going to go onto my phone and see if you guys can hear me okay. Let's see. I wonder why I can't. Okay, I can see that two people are watching. So if you are here, can you just drop a comment below and let me know that you can hear me and you can see me and my screen, and let me know. I don't know why this is being all funny for me. I'll go on my phone. Screen. Oh, there I can hear myself talking, but I want to know if you guys can hear me. So if you're there, drop me a hello, say yes, we can hear you. And where are you dialing in from? Oh yes, hi Jennifer, thank you. And you can see me, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. So guys, we are going to get started just in a couple minutes. I just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to jump on and watch this training. Hi, Andrea. Thanks for tuning in. Really want to make sure that everyone who wanted to do this is able to jump in and listen to our training. Where are you tuning in from? I am in Seattle, Washington. And as I said, it's a beautiful day today and the sun is shining. Hi, Tara. You are from Minnesota. Thanks for tuning in, Tara. I hope I pronounce your name right. In Australia, we pronounce that Tara. So I am wondering if I'm pronouncing your name right. I am in the US, but my name is pronounced Dana, but Americans call me Dana. So there we go. I just want to make sure your name is, I'm pronouncing it right. So I can see Jennifer's from Ohio. Thanks for tuning in from Ohio. What's the weather like in Ohio right now? It's beautiful here in Seattle, which is just making me really, really happy and excited to be here with you today. So we are going to get started in just a minute. I am just going to make sure. Yes, I said, so did I say Tara or Tara? So Tara's the first way, Tara's the second way. Hopefully that's right. Marissa's from Nashville, Tennessee. I haven't been to Nashville yet, but I really want to go. Can't wait to get there. That's the town of the country music, isn't it? Hold on. I'm just going to let some couple people into the group because I know that there were some that I just sent out an email for. So I want to make sure that they can just come in and watch our training. But the first, thanks, Tara. That's great. Okay, guys, we're going to get started. You can see my screen. Now, does your child have mood dysregulation? And I know that most kids with ADHD do. And so if they do, this is the training that you're going to want to stay tuned to. And this training's especially for you guys. Summer's from Alabama. Hi, Summer. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to introduce myself for those that don't know about me. My name's Dana, or you can call me Dana, or you can call me Dee, or you can just go, hey, you. I will answer to all of them. I'm a board certified holistic health practitioner and the founder of the ADHD Thrive method for kids. And I help families all across America struggling with their child's symptoms of ADHD with all natural solutions. So I help them fight those symptoms, that we all know can sometimes be debilitating, debilitating for their family, for schooling and all of that. And so these symptoms are stopping children from being the best versions of themselves, from being able to learn like their peers, but also creating chaos in that family life. Oh, there was a bit of a bang. So I got a bit scared. Marissa, this is totally appropriate for a 3-year-old as well. It doesn't really matter the age. So Jasmine's from Atlanta. Hi, Jasmine. Thanks for tuning in. So that's who I am. Now, I was obviously not born in the USA, as you can tell by my accent, but I do live in Washington State in the US with my husband and my kiddos, and we have been here probably for about 7 years now. I don't think I'm ever going to lose the accent, but my boys definitely have an American accent. And I've got 2 boys, and my oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 4, and we went on a vicious cycle of trial and error. And by the time the doctor was suggesting the 4th medication to treat the symptoms of the other 3 medication he was already on, I knew that this was not the right path for us. And that's when I started my journey that got me here today. And today my son, he's thriving. He hasn't been on meds for years, and he's doing great at school and at home. And through my through my journey, I ended up with this passion to help other families just like you guys get to the same place as me so much quicker. It was, and I say this all the time, it was so hard for me, and it just doesn't need to be that hard for others. So that's why I'm so glad that you guys are here today. Okay, enough about me. Now let's dive in. Today I'm going to talk to you about one huge underlying stressor that may be playing a role in your child's ADHD and mood dysregulation. And I'm going to keep looking to the right because I've got the comments on Facebook on my right-hand screen. And so that's why I'm looking, just to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Lachelle's here from Illinois. Hi, Lachelle. Okay, so now, does your child suffer from any of the following? I want you guys to tell me in the Facebook comments now if one of your child is suffering with anything that you can see on this screen. So drop it in the comments now if they're suffering with 1, 2, 3, 4 or more of what you can see on the screen. My son, he used to have explosive anger. He used to have anxiety. He could not tolerate any form of emotional stress, and he was totally irritable. I mean, I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure many of you watching are totally nodding your head in agreement. Rebecca or more, yes, totally. I'm going to tell you what it may be. It could be something called pyrroles. Pyrroles, you ask. I'm wondering if anyone's heard of that. So I'm going to dive into what pyrroles are and how they impact ADHD. Valerie is saying lots of these. Amanda, anxiety, irritability, poor tolerance, and emotional strength. So guys, pyrroles could definitely be at play for your child, and I'm going to dive into what it is right now. Now, firstly, you may have heard it, you may have not have heard it. It can be called different names. It may be called pyrroles, pyroluria, Kryptopyrroles, or I would say mauve factor. I don't know if you'd say mauve factor or mauve factor. Let's just say mauve factor. So the technical name for it is hydroxyhemopyrrolin 2,1, or HLP for short. And that's a little bit of a tongue tie, but let's call it HLP. Okay. Now, small amounts in the body are normal and it has its purpose, but what it can do is it can take a particular liking to zinc and vitamin B6 in our body. Now, HPL has such an affinity for them that once we absorb these nutrients from our food or from multivitamins or whatever in our bloodstream, HPL hijacks them before they can actually be used elsewhere in our body. They are then excreted in the urine, meaning that zinc and vitamin B6 are no longer available for their usual biological roles, and they are needed in so many different processes inside the body. Now, B6, for example, is needed as a part of the neurotransmitter cycle, and that's all about our mood and regulating our mood. So you can totally understand that if you're deficient in B6, what it can do to our mood. Now, people with pyroluria have been found to have exceptionally low levels of both vitamin B6 and zinc. Some people believe that pyroluria is hereditary and that it is a chronic condition that requires lifelong treatment. Other people believe that it is from stress or trauma and a sign of oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an information what that is. So oxidative stress, it's an imbalance between production and accumulation of oxygen reactive species. So free radicals, you might have heard free radicals in the cells and the tissues, and the ability of the body to detoxify these. So if they can't detoxify them, this increases inflammation. And you've probably heard me talk about a lot. Inflammation in the body is a driver for our kids' symptoms. So anyway, we're not talking about oxidative stress today, but we need some oxidative reactions and some inflammation for many of our processes, like fighting off infections and wound healing. But too much of this can be a problem. Now, so as I said, it could either be from genetics or oxidative stress, but I believe it's probably a combination of both. Okay, so that was just a little bit of technical information before we sort of delve a little bit deeper. Now, pyroluria is commonly linked to ADHD, which is why we're all here today, ASD, dyslexia even, can you believe it? Anxiety, depression, Down syndrome, schizophrenia, learning disabilities, bipolar, and alcoholism. Obviously, we're not going to have alcoholism with our children, but later in life. Now, not everyone with these conditions have pyrroles, and not everyone with pyrroles has these conditions, but it's thought to sit around 18 to 35% of people with these conditions. 18 to 35% is quite substantial in my eyes. So if 35% of our kids have pyrroles, this could be very much a driver of their mood dysregulation. Okay, so what are the signs of pyroluria? They are very, very diverse. Pyrrole disorder can be mild, moderate, or severe. Some people only exhibit a handful of these symptoms. I've seen kids with only one or two of these symptoms and still had high pyrrole levels in their urine. In most cases, people will have at least two or more of the following. So what you can see on the screen: irritability, anxiety, poor stress control, depression, mood swings, poor anger control, explosive anger, sensitivity to light or sounds or smells, and that's common with that, sensory processing issues, poor short-term memory. In extreme cases of pyroluria, there are severe mood swings and even violent behavior. They may also have issues with allergies, white spots on their nails, wound healing, poor dream recall, and get frequent infections. Now, as you have probably realized, many of those symptoms that I've just listed are common symptoms of ADHD. Okay, just going to pop over to see if there's any questions so far. From what I can see, there is not, but I can see a lot of people that are watching that have said their children have got 4 or 7 or 10 plus of those symptoms. That's why I'm so glad that you are here today. So what do you do if you suspect that pyroluria could be at play for your child? Okay, so you can speak to your healthcare practitioner about conducting a urine test to determine if it is or not. It's really simple. There is a simple at-home urine test that can be done. Now, it measures the HPL being excreted and then categorizes it as either normal or optimal, borderline, or positive. Now, I'm just showing you the lab that I use. I've just whited out the names of the people, but I use a lab called DHA, and they have this Kryptopyrrole test, and the lab is really cheap, not including my fees. It's only $82. But I will tell you that most traditional medical doctors do not know much about pyroluria, and they will most likely not run this test. And that really, really upsets me, because it could be such a driving factor for a lot of our kids. Okay, so if you find out that it's borderline or positive, what do you do about it? You want to work with your holistic health practitioner to come up with a tailored bio-individual vitamin and mineral protocol. This will include increasing zinc and B6 because they're obviously depleted, but they're the most important, but then also adding some other key nutrients in, such as vitamin C, selenium, biotin, vitamin E, and in some cases, evening primrose oil, which contains omega-6, and that's only if pyroluria is marked as very high. Okay, now there are really, really few things that are so important to know. And guys, you can start popping your questions in the comments below if you've got them. I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer any questions towards the end of this session. But I want to talk about some really important things to know. Okay. Some people with mild to moderate pyroluria can have really quick improvement within a few weeks of increasing zinc and vitamin B6. It's as simple as that. But others with more severe pyroluria, it can take upwards of 3 to 12 months to balance those levels. So it's not a quick fix in some cases. Now, if genetics are at play, sometimes this can be a lifetime balance game. And when stopping these vitamins and minerals, you must be aware that the person who you're doing it for may experience an immediate return of symptoms, okay? Sometimes just addressing pyrroles can bring about a dramatic change, which is super, super, super exciting. But, okay. I cannot emphasize the danger in letting pyrroles take the entire blame for your child's ADHD-like symptoms. Most of the time, there are also other pieces of the puzzle that have to be addressed. And it's really important to remember that. I just remember in the past, before I sort of launch into this journey, reading about something in a Facebook group and getting so excited that that was going to be the be all and end all for my son. And I was always let down. Okay. So you need to find the pieces of the puzzle for your child. Okay. So I'm sure that you're all asking, what are those pieces of the puzzle? So I'm going to list out some of them. There are a lot, but I'm going to list out the most ones that I find when working with the families that I work with. Okay. Those other pieces of the puzzle include things like diet and nutrition. And I will tell you that 50% of the families that I work with, we change the diet, we reduce enough inflammation in the body, and that is simply enough to reduce symptoms to a manageable level, and that we don't need to go further into functional lab testing. 50%. We can make dietary changes. That is a lot, and that is absolutely amazing. Okay, food sensitivities is another stressor. If your child has leaky gut, which is a story for another day, but food can leak into their bloodstream and the body can recognize that food as a foreign invader and start to try to kill it. This is how food sensitivities are formed. So it's important to find out what they are, remove them out of the diet, but heal the gut at the same time, so you can start working on the body and reducing inflammation that way. There can also be other genetic issues affecting nutrients involved in mood and cognition, things like genetic mutations as MTHFR, COMT, MAO. I mean, it's such a huge topic. And again, it's another story for another day. But to find these out, you would need to do a genetic test such as nutrition genome. That's the one that I like to use with my families. Or you might have heard 23andMe. That can determine if you've got these mutations and what you need to do about them. Gut-brain connection. That is a clear one. There is a very close connection between the gut and the brain. And one of the first signs of disconnect in the brain is a gut that's not functioning well. And the brain has many areas involved in gut function, but one of the main areas is the frontal lobe, and it talks to the gut via nerve branches and two-way chemical messengers. Now, the frontal lobe is involved in things like attention and focus and executive function and planning and organizing and problem solving, which are all common symptoms that most of our kids with ADHD suffer with. Other things can be like heavy metal toxicity. To work this out, we usually use a hair tissue mineral analysis test. It's just a little bit of hair from the back of the head to determine if there are any heavy metals at play. Neurotransmitter imbalance, again, that's a big one. Things like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine. Did you know that 95% of serotonin and 50% of dopamine is made in the gut? So if your gut isn't functioning well, then the body isn't able to produce these critical hormones that regulate our emotions, that maintain our mood and our cognitive function. Neural inflammation and oxidative stress, things like PANDAS or PANS that can cause flares in the brain. And look, I could go on and on all evening. This is not what I'm here to talk about today. There are so many more things that could be a part of the puzzle. These are the main drivers that I find with my clients. Pyrroles just happens to often be a particularly large piece of the ADHD-like symptoms puzzle that so many people don't know anything about, and that is why I am here today. Okay, guys, so we're going to summarize what we covered, and then we're going to go over, and I'm going to see if there's any questions, guys. If you want to answer any questions, I'm going to see if I can see those questions. I can see people commenting, but I'll have to try and see if I can go through those questions. After the summary, I will go through them. So we're going to summarize what we covered today. Pyroluria may contribute to some of our children's ADHD symptoms. If it is at play, it results in a dramatic deficiency of zinc and vitamin B6. It can cause a wide range of emotional and other symptoms. You can identify pyroluria through an at-home urine test, and you can target pyroluria through bio-individual protocol of vitamin and minerals. But last but not least, make sure you don't ignore the other pieces of the puzzle for your child. Now, when you can start piecing together all of these pieces of the puzzle for your child, you can start to feel in control. You can feel happy, you can bring back that calm, and you can relieve symptoms naturally and really watch your child and your family thrive. Now, we're going to jump into questions. I see that we've got Isa one here. I've got one from Valerie, so I'm going to totally jump into those in a second. Before we jump into questions, if you suspect that pyroluria might be at play for your child and contributing to their symptoms, and are looking for answers for your child's ADHD, and you're ready to take that leap and start fighting their symptoms naturally, I'm going to pop a link into the comments below. I'm going to do that now, where you can book a free call with me or my team. I'm going to pop it in there. Now, we've actually opened up a lot of extra spots this week and next week in our calendar, specifically for you guys. Jump in quick because the slots do get taken pretty quickly. We're going to speak to you personally about how we can support you so that you can start fighting your child's symptoms naturally and bring back that calm into your house that you know you want and desire. So I've popped that link in there, and then I'm going to pop over to questions now. Okay. Roxanne, do ADHD meds contribute to imbalances in the gut? That's a really good question, Roxanne. Now, medication full stop creates inflammation, creates toxicity. So unfortunately, it usually does, and it's this perpetuating problem. However, I never suggest that my clients go off medications without the consultation of their doctors. Usually, once we can reduce inflammation in the body, through diet, through getting to those hidden stressors like what we've talked about today and healing that gut, we can reduce the symptoms, reduce the inflammation, and a lot of the symptoms sort of reduce. And then you might find that you can sort of wean off the medication, but that's totally got to be done in consultation with your doctor. Just for an example, with my son, when we started this journey many years ago, I was able to get him off medications probably within about 4 months. We titrated down very slowly over a summer, and he hasn't been on meds ever since. Okay, Laura, are you willing to make recommendations for vitamin and minerals that we can order? I usually make recommendations for vitamin and minerals for my clients that I'm working with. I like to look at their lab tests, see what's going on in their body, and then we specifically target what's going on in their body with specific supplements and herbs and diet and things like that. Now, I've got 2 programs. I've got one program which focuses on fighting symptoms with food first. I do have base supplements in that program that really kickstart the journey. That's one program. And the other program I have is the higher level program where we look at lab testing, where we look at supplements, and we design a protocol specifically for that child. Rebecca, is it true that if pandas isn't diagnosed early in life, then it shouldn't be considered or tested at, say, age or 12? Rebecca, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that at all. Pandas is it's an inflammatory response. It's neuroinflammation in the brain. And so if you've got it, there are things you can do to reduce that inflammation, to target that, to help you. And a lot of the time, a big part of that does involve the gut, but also reducing inflammation in the brain. Let me try and see if I can see all those other ones. It always does this to me. Let me just try another way. And of course I can't. Let me see if I can get those on my phone. Those other questions. If you pop them in now, I should be able to grab them, but I think once they go down and past the screen, I can't see them anymore. Let me just go to this and to this. I'm just keeping an eye out. Okay, there we go. Let me just mute. We don't want to see me. Okay, I think okay, Valerie, how do we get home urine tests? So Valerie, when my clients work with me, we order it for them, we send it to their house. You have to find a holistic health practitioner that will order for you and get it sent to your house. And then you take the urine sample and you send it back to the labs. Okay, Isa, how do I know that my son has gut problems? That is a good question. Sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes they might not have gut symptoms. Leaky gut can cause so many things that aren't related to the gut. Okay. Gut-brain connection, if they've got mood dysregulation, if they've got brain fog, if they've got allergies, eczema, asthma, all of that are signs that there are broken down in the gut. Now, there are some base healing gut supplements that you can get to really target the gut. However, if there's something else underlying that's contributing to that, like parasites or bacterial overgrowth or candida, which is like a yeast overgrowth, then you need to bring in some specific ones to target that so you can heal the gut, because otherwise it's going to be this vicious cycle and you're never going to be able to heal it. Cheryl, are there ever times that even after all your natural treatments that issues continue? Good question, Cheryl. Look, there are a smaller percentage of kids that might really, truly have brain damage or something wrong inside their brain. Obviously, when there's something like that, it's very hard to target that, but it is a much smaller percentage. I will tell you that I did a fellowship under Dr. Greenblatt, who wrote the book Finally Focused. And he is a psychiatrist. He was trained to prescribe drugs, but he very much goes with this approach of exactly what I preach. And so he always said that even if you end up in medication, you can't do that without making sure that the body is functioning well, because you'll end up in this vicious cycle of new medication, increasing the dose, adding in new medications because of the symptoms. So yes, some kids may need a small amount of medication. However, to get to that point, you still need to go down the path of diet, nutrition. You still need to go down the path of making sure the body is functioning as best as it can, because those kids that do need that little bit of medication, if their body's not balanced, it could end up being that, I've had some kids that have come to me that are on 6 different medications, and we've been able to get them off majority of them, and then they just stay on a small dose of, during school. And that is so much better than being on 6 different medications. Okay. I think that is all the questions so far. Let me just go through. If anyone wants to drop some questions now is your time. Just going through. Looks like I've got everyone's questions. Marissa, how do I know this is the body versus his environment? Marissa, that's a really good question. The environment will have a big factor on his body. So what we're doing is we're not only looking at his body, we're looking at the environment around. Now, some of the lab tests that I do, it can give us an indication that it might be environmental. So it can, toxins, mold, diet. And so some of those markers that we see on the lab test, we get an insight as to if it is the environment as a part of that. And a lot of the time it is. Okay. So what we teach our clients is not just diet, not just supplements. It is this holistic approach. It is total lifestyle. It is total environment. You want to clean up your environment to make sure that they're not constantly exposed to toxins. And there are so many toxins in this world, and our kids, they're compromised. They are, they've got this broken down gut. Their detoxification pathways are usually compromised. And the more toxic onslaught that they get on their body is the more symptoms that they're going to have. So it is a combination of everything. That was a really good question. Is there lab test for a gut? Yes, there is totally a lab test for the gut. The current lab test that I use for gut is called a GI map, and it's a stool test, and it looks at the state of the gut. So it looks for things like parasites, bacteria, worms, yeast overgrowth. There are intestinal health markers that look at inflammation, immune system responses, leaky gut, lots of all that good stuff, but it can't just be isolated to the gut. Okay, so there's 2 ways that people go down this path. They think, I want to look at food sensitivities. So they do a food sensitivity panel and they take out all these foods and they don't get anywhere. The problem is they're not healing the gut at the same time. So you're not going to be able to heal from the food sensitivities. The same thing goes, if you do a gut test, you find out what's going on in the gut. But if you don't take out the foods that they're sensitive to, then it's going to be this vicious cycle, because you're still eating those foods. They're still causing inflammation in the body and they're still breaking down the gut. So you're stuck in this cycle. So it is not just that one piece. And it's exactly what I said with this pyroluria, is you can't just focus on that one thing. It does sort of form part of that puzzle. Cheryl, how young have you seen children with these issues? Seems like my son has these issues from a year old. Would things have affected him while in utero via me? So Cheryl, it can happen from birth. And I usually find the kids that have had multiple ear infections, in their first year, and they've been on lots of rounds of antibiotics. I say this all the time, I should have taken a poll of the amount of families that I've spoken to and seen what percentage of the kids have had multiple ear infections and multiple antibiotics in their first year of life, because it would be a very high percentage, I can tell you that. Now, it can happen from being in utero. Now, if you've just had a normal pregnancy and nothing too fantastic, like, they haven't been exposed to any multiple drugs or things like that, then most likely it's not from something that you've done. You never should ever blame yourself. But it all plays a part in this. They might have come in and had, my son had a rough birth. He was on a breathing machine for 2 weeks of his life. He was pumped with multiple medications once he was born because he had premature lung disorder. And so, that could have played a massive part in, him coming out with these symptoms. So everything is at play here. When we speak to clients and when we speak to families to assess, what would be the next best step for them, we always look at that health history, because that's a big piece of the puzzle. If I have someone that comes to me and hasn't had any issues whatsoever, no gut symptoms, no allergies, none of that, has been really healthy, no antibiotics, I know that we could do really, really well with just diet. If I've got someone that's got multiples of these things and this health history, I know we'll probably need to end up in functional lab testing. Cheryl, yes, a lot of ear infections, but they never started till he was 1. I was on antibiotics while pregnant. You never know, but Cheryl, there's no point in surmising. You'll never know. It doesn't matter. When you know better, you do better. So you are here, you are learning, you're learning how to help him. But strep a lot. Yes, strep is huge. Okay, so strep, again, same thing as ear infections. And strep can actually, if it goes untreated, can actually cause a lot of other symptoms, a lot of other issues as well. You heard me mention pandas and pans. If anyone ever gets strep, that is the one thing I say you need to take antibiotics for. Cheryl, yes and yes. Yep. Okay. So now I think I've answered all the questions. Any more before I jump off here today? Just a reminder for everyone, I'm just going to drop that link into the comments right now. You are free to book a call with me or my team. We've opened up extra slots over the next 2 weeks specifically for you guys. If you're really ready to, if you suspect that pyroluria could be at play or gut issues, that could be contributing to your child's symptoms, and you are looking for answers for their ADHD and are ready to take that leap and start fighting those symptoms naturally, book a call with me, my team, and we will dive in and we will look at how we can personally support each and every one of you so you can start fighting their symptoms naturally, and we can help you get to the next stage. Rebecca, thank you. Isa, what about dehydration? Dehydration, super important. You need to make sure that you're getting lots of water throughout the day. I wouldn't say that dehydration is a cause of ADHD symptoms, but it is part of the whole picture. You need to make sure that you're flushing the body with water, not only for, because the body's made up of so much water, but also to, detoxify, flush out that liver and help it. So that's one of the pieces of the puzzle as well. So guys, just remember, feel free to book a call with me and my team. If you've got any questions, if you're watching the replay, drop your questions in the comments. I will be hanging around and I will be looking out for those questions. I will be happy to answer them in the comments. So drop them now if you're watching the replay. I hope you enjoyed today's training session, and I really hope I'm gonna try and get in here and do live training sessions more often now that I've got some help with me in my team. It allows me to get a bit more time so I can prepare these for you. So guys, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed today. If you've booked a call with us, we look forward to talking with you soon, and take care, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.